It's time now for the Kill the Can podcast.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Kill the Can podcast. It is Wednesday morning. I'm on my way to work. The 4th of July is tomorrow. It is Independence Day. I hope you guys and gals are gearing up for an awesome holiday celebration. I hope perhaps you've got the day off work. I hope you've got some barbecue and some fireworks and some festivities lined up, and that you're looking forward to kind of the official, unofficial, official start to summer, even though the reality is, I don't know if you feel like me, I feel like my summer is almost gone already, which is just kind of crazy. My kids actually start school in like the middle of August, like the 16th or 17th of August, something crazy. And I remember growing up, I feel like, we ended school, in Memorial Day and started school in Labor Day. Or that's what it felt like. At least it felt like summer was a little bit longer. And these days, having kids of my own and chaos during the summer of my own, it feels like summer just kind of like flies by very quickly. This morning, I have to start with an apology. And it was an apology that I sent via text to the guys that attended the Pennsylvania Quit Meet, which you heard on the last episode of the podcast. And my apology is I didn't do a very good job of publicizing when that meet was occurring or when it was going to take place. I mentioned on the last episode, unfortunately, I was not able to attend. We got together, almost a year ago to start discussing when we were going to have this meet and where it was going to be and who was going to host it. And Theo Threewood and Bolker decided they were going to graciously host it. And so they and this group that I was on the phone with, were in charge of kind of determining when the meet was going to be. And at the time, I looked at my calendar, and I already knew that I wasn't going to be able to attend. And the reason that I wasn't able to attend actually changed, but the fact that I wasn't able to attend did not change, unfortunately. So regardless, and so when we decided on the date and the location, we put together a Facebook event, and we announced it on Discord, and we announced it on the forums. And I don't think, I know I didn't. I didn't do a very good job heading up to that event, letting people know when that event was going to take place. And because of that, I think there were some people that would have wanted to attend that event that didn't because they didn't know it was taking place. And I sincerely apologize for that. And I don't know if that's because I just completely dropped the ball. I don't know if that's because in the back of my mind, I knew I wasn't going to be able to go. And so I just kind of forgot about it. And again, so that's on me. I apologize. I will commit to not only those folks, but the rest of the Kill the Can community that in future meets like that, whether it's the Pennsylvania meet or another larger scale event, I will do a much better job of pushing that message out to the community across our channels, whether it's on the podcast, our social media, the website, Discord, forums, what have you. I will do a better job of pushing that out so that the most quitters that want to go can attend those meets. So again, to the folks that have reached out to me and said, "Oh my God, I didn't even know," or what, I had one guy that said, "Hey, when's the PA meet coming up?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like it just happened last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. So again, I apologize. That's on me. and I will effort to do a better job moving forward from a communication standpoint. I guess to that point, if there are ways that you all that are listening to this podcast would like to see me communicate those kind of things, let me know. Like, leave me a comment, shoot me a DM. Does it make sense is it on the calendar? Is it on the website? Do I make a blog post? Is it just Facebook? Is it Twitter? Like, what's the best way for me to communicate those kind of things to the community? I would love to hear from you. I would love some feedback. Obviously, if you're listening on the podcast, that might be a good platform. But if there's something else that I'm not thinking of, let me know. I want to know. I would love to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts. Last night, I took my son to a swim meet, my 10-year-old son to a swim meet. And that swim meet was at the high school that I graduated from. I was a swimmer. I was a competitive swimmer for about almost 20 years, starting from age group all the way up through college and to college. I didn't swim in college. And I was walking through that locker room and walking around that pool deck that I had spent so many hours and years. And it really, and I know it sounds kind of cliche, but it really kind of unlocked a core memory. And I walked into the locker room and it was completely empty. And I took a video of that empty locker room and the showers and what have you. And I sent that video to a couple of my swimming buddies, some of whom I really haven't talked to in, I don't know, a decade or two. And it just it brought back all of those memories, all of those feelings. Overwhelmingly, they were good feelings. And I started thinking about other core memories as it pertained to my quit. And as I mentioned, Independence Day is coming up here tomorrow. And obviously, we are celebrating our independence as a country. But for a nicotine quitter, that Independence Day kind of takes on a new meaning. And one of those core memories that I really remember very well is my very first Independence Day after I quit. I quit on July 24th, 2006, so I had missed July 4th by 20 days. But I very vividly remember that next year. So it would have been July 4th, 2007. And I remember this feeling of gratitude. I had been quit almost a year at that point. And Independence Day that year took on a whole new meaning for me. It was not just about being patriotic. It was not just about America anymore. I had this sense of true freedom from my addiction. And that really was a core memory for me. Some other core memories of my quit, I can remember very vividly being in the chat room on certain occasions, getting into arguments, getting into discussions about my quit. I can remember fear coming in and overtaking me in those first couple of weeks. I can remember very vividly laying on my floor, watching television, and having what I subsequently have found out was a panic attack. I thought it was a heart attack because my chest was tight, my left arm was numb and tingling. I remember that very vividly because I remember taking myself to the emergency room, concerned that I was having a heart attack, all the while I was dealing with anxiety and stress and panic brought on by nicotine withdrawals. That's not a very good memory, but it certainly is a core memory for sure. I remember my very first quitter meet, which I have talked about on this podcast, where I drove across town in Cleveland here, and I met Houday and his brother, Highway 48, two guys that had driven up from Cincinnati to watch the Browns and the Bengals play. And this was a time where, before the internet, before texting was even really a thing, and I remember I told my wife, hey, I'm driving across town to meet these guys, and she was blown away by the fact that I would go anywhere and meet somebody sight unseen that I met, quote, from the internet. That was a core memory. I remember my first Pennsylvania quit meet, which was the inaugural. It was pouring rain. It was at Big Brother Jack's sister-in-law's house. And that meet, to this day, the bonds that were formed at that meet persist to this day. And like I said earlier, and on the last podcast, just 2 weeks ago, we had the 14th quote-unquote annual, and I say quote-unquote only because of COVID. It stopped it for a couple of years. My point in this entire conversation is, if you're struggling going through your quit right now, I want you to embrace what is that you're going through. Because even though you're struggling and even though you're feeling awful, if you can embrace the process, if you can engage with the community, I think you will find that looking back years from now, there will be at least one or two of those core memories that are going to emerge. And you're going to look back, I think, with fond thoughts of this time. And as you engage with this community, and as you meet fellow quitters, and as you embrace your quit as not something that you're going to try to do, but something that you are living, and you understand that no matter how hard it is, nicotine and tobacco is not an option, and you need to figure out a way around or through, but not to go back to your addiction. I'm pretty confident that one of those core memories is going to be, oh my goodness, freedom from my addiction is absolutely amazing. I want to wish everybody out there a happy Independence Day tomorrow. I hope you have an opportunity to enjoy it. And I hope that you take the opportunity to reframe Independence Day, not only about the country's independence, but your personal independence from your nicotine addiction. I'm honored to be quit with you. We'll talk to you soon, quitters. Have a good one.
Join us again next time for another edition of the Kill the Can podcast.